And this evening, we'll be pondering upon Dasein, quest for blue identity. And in other words, we can say our topic, using Dasein as a tool or theory to search for blue identity. So that will be our topic tonight. And before going to the blue identity, we'll first think about the philosophical argument based on George Berkeley and also from Martin Heidegger. With regard to existence, Irish philosopher George Berkeley, with his famous dictum, philosophical dictum called esse-est-percipi, which means to be is to be perceived. Or in other words, existence is perception. Existence is based on perception. That is how he proposed a philosophical tool as to argue the winds of materialism during his time, 18th century of Europe. During his time, the notion of materialism, that is not only a phenomenal materialism as such, but a philosophical stand, philosophical argument used or employed by some philosophers and thinkers. They emphasize on materialism. But to argue against the notion of materialism, George Berkeley proposed immaterialism that is based on esse-est-percipi. And to him, there are only two kinds of things. There are only two kinds of things that shape and reflects the reality. Those are spirits and ideas. Spirits for him is simple and active beings, and also that perceives ideas. So to say, spirits is the deciding factors for everything, according to George Berkeley. And again, ideas for him is passive. It is perceived and produced by spirit only. To Berkeley, spirits is similar to our minds, conscious subject, our minds, the thinking faculty. But ideas is a state of mind or sensation or conscious experience. So for George Berkeley, spirit cannot be perceived because it is a perceived faculty, perceiving mechanism, according to him. So spirit is that perceives ideas, and all the things, all reality, through inward feelings and reflection. Therefore, for Berkeley, all physical objects are composed of ideas. The things that we see, the things that we can touch, ideas. They are all the collection of ideas only. That's how George Berkeley is saying. And now, again, for Berkeley, everything is, or everything can be perceived with plurality. Plurality for him is quality and extension. Quality and extension. We cannot just perceive on the quality of a thing without perceiving the extension or motion or the movement or the structure of a thing. Supposing if we try to perceive a cow, we can have a knowledge of the quality and the motion and the movement and the extension of the cow, apart from its color, red, black, or brown, or white, or anything. Beyond that, we used to perceive a cow can give us milk. A cow wants to eat grass, green grass, or anything. Or it can be used for, what is that, cultivation, agriculture. So that is how Berkeley is talking about the reality, the identity. So it is the mixture of quality, extension of a thing. That is why to discuss about identity, there are two things according to Berkeley. Number one is quality, its motion or extension. So what we come to know from Berkeley's proposition is that in order to know a thing, the reality of a thing, we must need to know the quality and also of its extension and motion, movement. So that is how the conclusion is made by George Berkeley. And now we'll further proceeding towards a German philosopher, Martin Heidegger, his philosophical dictum, Dasein. Dasein comes from German word. It is a combination of two words, da and sein. Da means there, and sein means to be, existence, exist. So it is all about existence. So in the light of Dasein, for Heidegger, existence is in relation to other phenomenon. And Dasein means being there or being in the world. So existence can be perceived in relation to others. So even for Martin Heidegger, the identity or existence of something cannot be perceived with its quality alone. His or her identity or reality cannot be known only by perceiving his or her quality. It is known through the interaction, how they interact, how they connect with other things, like how we connect with the world. All this shapes our identity. That is how Martin Heidegger is thinking about existence. And Dasein is a philosophical tool for Martin Heidegger to acknowledge the interrelatedness of existence. For Heidegger, everything is connected. everything is interrelated. So, identity or existence is defined by interaction with other forms of dimensions. So this is all about Martin Heidegger is talking about existence. And even for human existence, according to Martin Heidegger, is defined by the interaction with the world, or with nature, or with the universe. Human being alone cannot express his own identity. Human being without external forces, external objects like world, God, nature, or everything outside of human being. Human being alone cannot define our identity. But our identity is recognized and expressed or defined only with the interaction with the world or our environment. It is how Martin Heidegger is talking about existence, human existence. So, the identity of human being can only be perceived, his quality and his extension. As George Berkeley is expressing about the identity, the same is with Martin Heidegger. George Berkeley talk about identity or existence in relation to the extension or movement, motion. My identity is shaped with my motion, my character, my behavior, and my relation to others. How I interact with people, how I connect with the nature, whether I love the animal or not. So that shapes my identity. My structure, my hairstyle, and the way I dress alone cannot express my identity. So according to George Berkeley, and also to Martin Heidegger, to understand one's identity, we need to think about the external forces, the external dimension, how they connect and how they interrelate. So that shapes, that forms identity. So extension, what we are talking about, refers to participation, interaction, involvement, and so on and so forth. Our behavior, all these things. And now we have learned the identity or the existence. According to Martin Heidegger and George Berkeley, of course, he's in 18th century philosopher, and Martin Heidegger is, of course, 19th century. And we'll come to the blue identity now, in the light of Martin Heidegger and of George Berkeley's identity, philosophical argument, their philosophical arguments of identity. So now, after learning Martin Heidegger's and George Berkeley's philosophical standpoint proposition for identity, what we have in our minds would be the elements that shape blue identity. What are the elements that shape blue identity? That may be the immediate questions after learning all about the identity, philosophical proposition, philosophical arguments shaped by Martin Heidegger and George Berkeley. So now, what are the elements that shape blue identity? That would be our main topic now. After learning the philosophical proposition of Martin Heidegger and George Berkeley, we come to know that we understood that the connection between immaterialism of George Berkeley and the Dasein of Heidegger. Of course, George Berkeley, he used immaterialism, philosophical term, and that is also employed by means of esse-est-percipi, to be perceived. But George Berkeley's perception is different from John Locke, although they are belonging to the same philosophical standpoint, like empiricist. Both of them are empiricist. But John Locke is purely empiricist, like he said, without experiment, we cannot know anything. No knowledge comes from insight. There is no ideas, innate ideas cannot give us knowledge. That is how John Locke is making a statement. And he said his philosophical dictum, tabula rasa. So mind at birth is like a plain sheet of paper. Nothing is written in the plain sheet of paper. So that is like the baby. So it is only through our experience that give us knowledge. That is how John Locke is talking about knowledge and identity, of course. But for Berkeley, though they belong to the same family, empiricism, he is of criticizing about John Locke's philosophy, empiricism. And for Berkeley is something like empiricist with idealist. He is more of idealist. And that will come to here. Because when he talks about the perception of a thing, though he talks about the collection of ideas, all the physical objects are the collection of ideas. So when we perceive about the table, for John Locke, it is real. The object of the table is real for John Locke. Because we can touch, we can see, and we experience, on which we write a letter, we do something on the table, that is real for him. But for George Berkeley, it is not only we touch and feel, or we know. Before that, the object, the collection of the ideas, we perceived how the table is. We have some ideas of table inside our mind. It is something like Plato. He also talking about the forms, ideas. But for Plato, forms is the first principle, like the only reality for him. It is not the object that we touch or see. This is not real. But for Berkeley, we have prior understanding of a table here, and by recollecting our ideas, and we feel and touch and we see, and that is agreement with our perceiving ideas, our perception of table, and the sense experience of a table. Their agreement. So with that agreement, we come to know the identity or reality. So for Berkeley, there are two things: perception first, and the sense experience that concludes the reality. And now philosophically speaking, the identity of Bru community is defined and represented by three things that is very important. In the light of Martin Heidegger and George Berkeley, we can come to the conclusion or a statement that Bru's identity is defined by three things. Number one is sounds. And secondly, shapes. Its shapes. And thirdly, colors. Bru identity is shaped and defined by sounds, shapes, and colors. That is how logically I can draw from Martin Heidegger and George Berkeley. And sounds implies to tunes and tones of living beings and nature. The first representation, the first forces or the first elements that shapes Bru identity is sounds, and that sounds implies to tunes, the tunes of something else, the sound, and tones, low voice or high pitch, something else, of living beings and nature. And secondly, shapes implies to appearance. Shapes implies to appearance, context, size, and design. So it's good to remember. Number one, sounds that represent Bru identity implies to tunes and tones of all living beings, all natures. Secondly, shapes implies to appearance, the extension, the movement. And apart from extension and movement, their appearance, context, the place, the context, size and design, how we are designed, how we design, how we look, those are the shapes. And thirdly, color refers to natural color, red, black, white, brown, yellow. Colors refers to natural and also behavior and also movement. So this is Bru identity. Number one, that shapes identity is sound, living beings. Secondly, shapes, the appearance, size, place, and the context and the design, the structure, all this. And color refers to natural colors, behavior, and movement. Okay, now let me clarify a bit about what is sounds is all about. When we talk about sounds, one thing that shapes Bruce's identity is tunes of animals. Tunes of animals. The sounds of wild animals and tamed animals are taken into sentimental tools or sentimental mechanism for Bru community. The way the birds produce sounds, the animal produce sounds, all these have meanings to the life of Bru community, Bru people. The sounds of some animals and insects like crane, monkey, and other birds. These tunes of sound or tunes produced by some animals are also used as a musical piece, a musical tune by the community, by the Bru community in the folk music, like the sound of crane or monkey or other birds, certain birds. The sound they produce exactly the tunes are made use or they used for the musical arrangement by the Bru people. And also the moment that we hear about sounds of animal in the forest, some people in older generation used to long for the past experience, their lives that has gone, their experience, or their loved ones, or their the romantic period, or whatever. So the sounds of the nature recollects our experiences in the past. That's very meaningful for the Bru community. So, and also the sounds, the tunes of some insects. Some insects are also used for the, or adjusting the time, like we called yung saroy. In English, I don't know. I literally translate evening insect that produce sound when it comes to around 5 or 6 o'clock evening. So when that sound is produced by that insect, the Bru community or the Bru people, even working in the forest or the June cultivation in the sound, working. That is how we used to think about the sound produced by some animals and insects. So the sounds of nature makes feeling and emotion. It makes us feel something. It makes us emotion, longing for something, longing for the past glory, and also sentimental. These sounds makes us sentimental. So that is all about the tunes of animals inside the sounds. And another sound is tones of thunders and lightning. This is also very meaningful to the life of the Bru people. it is also the tools of expressing our identity. The tones of thunder and lightning. Thunder and lightning have psychological meaning for the Bru people. It has psychological meaning, psychological implication for the Bru people. The tones of thunder, the thunders and lightning for the Bru people is not at all like a romantic tone as such. They regard these tones, thunder and lightning, as a terrifying and frightening tone. It is a fearful tone for the Bru people. It is not at all romantic as such in the previous tunes produced by the animal. It is totally different. In tunes of animals, it is something like sentimental. It leads to sentimental. It leads to romantic. And it leads to emotion. But now, when it comes to the tones of thunders and lightning, it is more of psychological. In the previous thing, it is more of feeling. Now it is more of fear and trembling. The moment the Bru people hear about the tones of thunder and lightning, it makes uneasiness, fear and trembling. It also in turn creates fear into the thundering voice. It is not only the thundering voice of thunder and lightning, it is also the thundering voice of others. Today we can interpret this thundering voice or the tones of thunder and lightning as the voice of majority, the voice of authoritative powers, and other who are in power. So fearing in the sense may also imply to fearing of the tones of thunders and lightning can be interpreted in psychological manner. So now, this fear and trembling may sense in another way, like shyness and inferiority complex, and also nervousness. The tones of thunder and lightning that creates or defined or shape our identity as shy sort of people, inferiority complex, and nervous. We normally are afraid to face someone who is in power, who is authoritative, who is in the side of majority. That is, let us go to shapes. Shapes. We have explained or talk about what is shapes all about. Shapes are size, designs, and all these things. So inside shapes, number one is bamboo. Let me talk with the help of bamboo to make known about the Bru identity. And bamboo shapes our identity. We use bamboo for the construction of houses, and we eat bamboo shoot, and we use bamboo for making handicraft, basket, and dining table. And not only this material, we also use for making sacrificial stuff, and also use for firewood, and also use for a spoon or cup, utensil. The shape we construct our houses, it designs. The design that we construct the house, the shape that we construct the house, that reflects the simplicity of Bru people, the life of Bru people. And bamboo itself, why Bru people make use of bamboo for their life. It is reasonable and plausible that bamboo is available everywhere, and bamboo is easy to handle and easy to replace, and it is available. And that is, in other words, there is simplicity in making use or employing of the bamboo in the life of Bru people. So bamboo, the simple life of Bru people. Bamboo defines the simplicity of Bru people. But that simplicity here does not imply to the quality check. Simplicity here does not mean that Bru life or the bamboo itself is not, what is that quality. It is not a quality check. It is more of accessibility and accountability of their lives. Bamboo represents the simplicity of human Bru people, the life of Bru people, and that in turn express the simplicity, in turn express the accessibility and accountability of Bru people. That is very important. That simplicity and accountability and accessibility of Bru people can be known and identified through bamboo. And now water under shapes elements, under shapes principle. Now we come to water. Bru people use water for religious purpose, for religious rites outside. Used to take bath before his sacrificial performance, before he performed any rites. He used to take bath. He used to clean and wash his body. That's what they used to do. And also, apart from religious elements, water is used to show that young people, young generation, respect to the elder one, the elder generation, filial piety, to show and identify their filial piety. Water is being used by the people of Bru. And they used to water or tools expressing our respect towards others, to show our respect to others. And apart from religious significance, as we said, Bru people use or consider river as boundary natural boundary for geography. People believe that this river separates regions or geography. And through these ideas of line for difference and similarity, the river differentiates everything. So that in turn help us to think about difference and similarity about the things, how it connects, how they are separated, how the difference between these two. Difference and similarity is being presented by the notion of water or river. That is what we can say under the said principle. And now we'll go to the last section of the principle for the Bru community: colors. As we have said, natural colors, red and black. Red and black is very, very common for the Bru people, and it is imbibed in our cultural practices also. Red color implies to happiness, joy, celebration. We Bru consider red color as beginning. It's beginning, flourishing. Black color presents that, so it is very meaningful for the perception and the understanding of things for the Bru people. And lastly, under colors, Bru people consider, even in food system, they consider soda and turmeric as very important elements for cooking stuff. Whatever we cook, especially meat like fish or other meat, Bru people cannot eat without mixing with the turmeric. While cooking, for Bru people, they need to mix with the turmeric. Without turmeric, they cannot eat tastily. And also, turmeric is not only for food system, it is also being used for medicine purpose and for exorcism. Bru people consider turmeric as something related to the spiritual realm that can protect us from evil. That is how we used to think before, and even today some people still believe in that way. Turmeric is a prevention material or stuff from evil things or disease, or it is also used for exorcism. That is very important. It's not only for cooking, it is also used for medicine and also for the exorcism as well. And also, Bru people use soda in their cooking system for cooking stuff. Cooking with soda, the curry especially, is one of the traditional foods favored by brew people even today. And we really fond of it, cooking with soda, curry. It's not meat, but a vegetable. Apart from flavor, soda and turmeric vanish dirty things and bad smell that vanish, that clean the dirty things and also bad smell. So in this case, in the through this turmeric and soda, using of turmeric and soda, brew people are being shaped and identified that they desire for smartness, generosity, and lowliness. Because turmeric and soda that cleans the dirty things, the bad smells, and also used for exorcism, particularly turmeric. And also that prevents disease. And that also cures some disease. So in the light of this, we can consider that brew people desire smartness. Smartness, it is something, the activity, the motion, the behavior. As we said, colors represent behavior. And movement, the smartness, our behavior, a way of life, our lifestyle. Brew people desire smartness and smartness in lifestyle, good behavior, and also generosity. So we can now conclude by saying that in the light of George Berkeley and of Martin Heidegger, they are using their own philosophical dictum as philosophical argument for knowing the reality or the identity of a thing, of all things. We can trace the principle that shapes the brew identity. So now we can come into the conclusion that the brew people identity is shaped by sounds of natural natures, the shapes, colors. Sounds includes tunes of animals that makes us sentiment, that makes us that identifies us as sentimental being, sentimental people, sentimental community. And the tunes of animals also defined brew people as emotional. And also the tones of thunders and lightning defines brew people as high sort of people, inferiority complex, and nervous. Inferiority complex towards the majority. And secondly, under the principle of shapes, it comes to bamboo. Bamboo identifies brew people as accessible and accountable. The simplicity in the bamboo identifies blue people as accessible and accountable. And water identifies blue people that makes them think the quality, the similarity, and also the difference. That makes them, what is difference between these things, what is similarity in these things. So water identifies blue people in that sense. And also thirdly, colors represents natural color, red, black, and also movement and behavior. Under colors principle, red and black colors identifies blue people as there is the moment of joy, peace, and sadness ending. So for the blue people, red signifies for the beginning, and black signifies to ending for the blue people. And also soda and turmeric, out of this, blue people is identified as longing for smartness in behavior and generosity. So turmeric and soda, they clean the dirty things. They are used for the prevention of disease and for the medical purpose and also for the exorcism. So in the light of that, these colors identifies Blue's quality of life, their generosity, the longing for smartness in their behavior, and their smartness and their desire for quality of life. So with this, we'll conclude by saying that we can come to trace the identity of blue people with these three principles: shapes, sounds, and colors. So therefore, it is in these shapes, sounds, and colors that blue identity is defined and expressed. Their emotional being, their desire for smartness in their lifestyle, and also feeling for similarity and difference. So that's how I can conclude in this discussion and for the topic of blue people identity in the light of Dasein. Thank you all for watching, and bye-bye.